to talk a little bit, Be'ez Hashem, to talk a little bit about sort of the balance between being in a place of perfect equanimity, what is called ishtavos, a place where a person experiencing shivisi Hashem, that I've placed Hashem in front of me, but from the word shaveh, equal, equanimity, a place where we're living from the inside out, where external forces or stimuli doesn't create our own eternal reality. We create the reality we wish to create for ourselves by a certain recognition that everything comes from the Creator. With also not becoming so detached or transcendent from the drama and experiences of life that we completely check out and don't truly experience life. In the beginning of this week's Torah reading, Chayei Sarah, the Torah talks about the death of Sarah. The life of Sarah. Sarah passes away at 127 years old. And it speaks about Avram coming from a certain location. He's coming from someplace. Avram coming from someplace to cry for her, to wail for her, and to mourn her. This is a continuation of the previous episode that happens in the Torah, which is the story of Avram going up onto the mountain, the lech lecha, the journey, and the binding of Isaac, the binding of Yitzchak, Akedas Yitzchak. And in the story of the Akedas Yitzchak, most commentaries, when the Mishnah says that there was 10 challenges, 10 tests that Avram had to experience, most Rishonim say, most commentators say that the 10th test was the test of the Akedah. His first test is Lech Lecha Ma'aretzcha, go from your land, leave your comfort zone, take the hero's journey. And the final one uses the same replicates the same language, which is also Lech Lecha, to go to the Akedah, to the binding of Isaac, the Akedas Yitzchak. Rabbeinu Yonah on the Mishnah writes that the 10th test is Avram coming from, and when it says that he's coming from the top of the mountain, which means he's journeying down the mountain. Obviously the mountain represents an idea, is metaphorically, it's literally, but also metaphorically represents a quality. He's going atkoi, to the top of the mountain, to the place of transcendence, and then he's returning down the mountain. Could Avram, who was on the top of the mountain, could he come down the mountain? That's the challenge, that's the test. Yitzchak, for example, the Torah actually doesn't describe where Yitzchak is. It doesn't say that he shows up to his mother's funeral. And therefore Chazal say the Midrash and different sources, whether he was on top of the mountain or he was in Gan Eden, and whether he was convalescing or he was in a place of transcendence, because he experienced a form of death. Certainly the experience of death he bumped up close to death. But Chazal also used the language that Afar Shel Yitzchak, that, for example, the Gemara in Zvachim says that when they want to know where the place of the Mizbeach during the times of the second Beis Hamikdash, so they saw the Nevuah, a row, but it was in a state of prophecy. They saw the Michal Sarsha, that was Makav Karbanis, they saw the angel Michal offering offerings, or they saw the Afar Shel Yitzchak, they saw the Afer, they saw the ashes of Yitzchak, which means on some level Yitzchak experienced a transcendence of life. And the question was, could Avram leave that state, the mystical state that Avram reached on top of the mountain, where Lech Lecha, where he's told to take his son, his beloved son, so not that he should not love his son, but he should love his son, and he should feel the love for his son, and then to do the unthinkable act, or at least that's what Avram assumed maybe, to do the unthinkable act, to go to that place on top of the mountain and to almost offer his child, means that Avram reached the point where he reached a state of inner transcendence, or hishtavus, complete equanimity, where the difference between life and death, which is the most stark difference in this world that we can experience, becomes tenuous, becomes blurry. Because there's a transcendence of life in itself. And of course, that's a paradoxical type of awareness. And Avram goes in the state that's beyond language, and he can't language it, therefore he doesn't tell his wife, doesn't tell Sarah where he's going. He goes to the top of the mountain. He knows that there are two truths. He knows that there's two truths, that that from Yitzchak he'll have a family. That was later, but he knows that he'll have descendants from Yitzchak, and he knows absolutely in his mind that he has to offer Yitzchak. And he's a place of the transcendence where these two things merge as one. And in that place of perfect equanimity, where it's Shivisi Hashem Lenegdi, whether it's Hashem Chesed, kindness, whether he's experienced life as kindness, or Lenegdi, or something that's the opposite, that seems to be painful and hard and difficult, it's Shava. It's in harmony. They're equal. The test of Avram, the highest level of the test of Avram, and that's why it's the 10th test, is could he experience fully life from the place of hishtavos? Could he reach a place of equanimity, and from the place of equanimity not get to a place where he becomes indifferent and cold, but could he experience death the way people experience death, and fully embody death and cry for death? When the Rambam in Hilchos Avelos, the Rambam talks in Laws of Mourning, he says that there is a certain period of time that a person has to cry when someone dies. And if you don't cry, you're an achzer, you're cruel. But the word achzer, yarzari, cruel is achzer, means you're foreign. You're living in a place of detachment. You're not really experiencing life. You're not experiencing the fullness of life. Could Avram return from the place of equanimity, from the place where he transcends the distinction between life and death? Could he then return back into life fully? And could he bury his wife? And could he mourn for her? Could he cry for her? And it's not that it comes at the expense of the equanimity, but the ultimate experience is to experience the fullness of life, the fullness of the drama of life, not just to pretend to enter into because this is the thing that you have to do in order for your family to mourn, but to truly experience the fullness of life in its full beauty and its full ugliness sometimes, or full pleasure and its full pain, to fully experience from the place of equanimity. We'll understand how this works, but this is what the 10th challenge. This is what the ultimate challenge of what it means to be in this world and what it means to be a Jew in this world. The Torah describes the passing of Sarah and the passing of Avram in this week's portion, this week's Torah reading. In the passing of Sarah, where it mentions Me'ah Shana, Esem Shana, Sheva Shana, where it mentions all the years of her life, so the sages, Chazal, read this, and Rashi brings it down, Kulam Shavim L'Toiva. We'll focus a little bit on the Shavim. Kulam Shavim means they were all equal. It means Sarah lived her life in a way that even though the life of Sarah was fraught with a lot of complications, a lot of difficulties, she had a lot of challenges, like Avram, her life was full of challenges and journeys and challenges, and being barren for many years, and finally having a child, and having a child another from a maidservant, and she has to push aside. There was a lot of challenges in her life, but she was able to live with a sense of absolute hishtavos, absolute equanimity. Kulam shavim, they're all equal. When a person lives with a certain understanding, with a certain sense of mindfulness, and recognizes that the experiences that they're having in their life and the qualities that they're giving, the definitions that they're giving to those experiences, whether they're quantifying it as something that's bad or good, it's just a quantification. And it's all a perception. There's a certain overlay that you're overlaying reality. Reality is just being experienced. And then we overlay reality with a certain type of definition of what that reality is. And we can choose. This is what it means to be shava, shivisi, equanimity. We can choose to say that this thing will not affect me. I'm not seeing this experience or viewing or experiencing this experience as something that's bad or something that's good. It's shava. It's equal. This is a certain level of stoicism, a certain level of detachment from reality. On the other hand, it's bookended with the same. Avram and Sarah are seen as the Chaymer and the Tzura, like the Zohar in this week's part, the beginning of this week's parsha writes. It's like the form and the substance. It's part of two. They're part of two of one, of chesed, of masculine chesed or feminine chesed, but they represent two parts of one. When it speaks about the death of Avram, when Avram's passing, was a makavat holocaust. When it speaks about the passing of Avram, it says Avram zaken babayam. Hashem be'ach Avram bakol. Avram was zaken babayam. Avram was elder, and he was babayam. He entered into his day. Kol yom v'yom av avinata. Every single day he entered fully. The Zohar says, babayam means a person that enters into your days, full days. You know, we can give a blessing for a person for arichas yamim or arichas shanim. A person should have long days or long years. Most time when we bless someone, we say for arichas yamim. Arichas yamim means that your days should be filled. You should have full days. Every single experience that you're experiencing throughout the day, you should enter fully. Whatever you're doing, be there completely. Baba Yamim means Avram entered into life into the fullest capacity. So on one hand, we have the idea of kulam shavim, where everything is equal. And by definition, when you say everything is equal without a quality, we're not saying that it's good or it's bad, but everything is equal before the Tovim, that everything is equal, that means that there's a level where you're standing above creation. You're not really being within the trauma of existence or within the fullness of existence. You're not truly experiencing things. You're not experiencing joy in its full capacity, unbridled, exuberant joy. You can't, because you're always detached. And for that matter, the flip side, which would be the good side, is that you're not experiencing pain in the same way. There's always a level of detachment. But what is the correct way of being in this world? I will understand why this is the correct way. What's the correct way? That the Torah says that you should cry when a person passes on, but you should cry for 3 days. Shalish lebechi. And then you stop crying. So if you don't cry, it means that you're not participating in life. You're not fully engaged in the fullness of existence. But if you cry too much, it means that you're lacking faith. If you cry too much, it means that you're not just experiencing the drama of life, but you become part of the drama itself. And that's when you sink. If a person says, I want to enjoy the experiences, what I'm experiencing in life. I want to enjoy the food that I have. Of course, enjoy. Tamarov K'tev Hashem. The beauty of Hashem and the deliciousness of the divine expression is particular in its taste. But then you can become a glutton. Everything, if you experience it fully, is the way you should live, because that's babayam, that means you're entering it fully. But if you're experiencing without bookended from the other perspective, which is the shava, which in the language or in the phraseology, the way the Baal Shem Tov writes about this, about equanimity, it says when you're eating something that's pleasant and tastes good to you, let's say it's sweet, or it's tasting sour and you enjoy it. Shava means when you don't care about the taste of the foods. It's all the same. It doesn't matter how it's tasting. If it tastes sweet or tastes sour, or it's a mix of sweet and sour, it doesn't matter to you. Or if it's bitter, it doesn't really matter. It's all shava. So shava is the place where there is no distinctions. Shava is the place of equanimity, is the place where there is no separations, there is no division, there is no particularity to creation. Everything is the same, without an inherent value. But the Maloi Chol Haaretz, the fullness of the creation, is Kvoide, is Hashem's glory, in the fullness of creation. So we're supposed to participate in the fullness of creation, in the correct state of mind, and enter fully, say a blessing, and enter fully, Baba Yam, in every single experience that we're having. To say it, what's the paradigm gives rise to this idea? Because there's one way to perceive this world in its Yesh form, in its manifest form, in its form of existence. That's one perception. And I experience the fullness of what it is. And I can touch it, I can feel it, empirically it's true, and I experience it. That's the manifest form. The other way of experiencing life is from the unmanifest form, which is the paradigm of the Ayin. And existence is Yesh Ayin, is a Yesh, is form that emerged from Ayin, emerged from nothingness. So there's the perspective of the fullness of creation, of existence, of the Yesh, and there's the paradigm of the emptiness of creation, the no-thingness, the Ayin of creation. In our small minds, we often think that our connection to the divine, our connection to Hashem, to the Creator, is through spirituality. That is the physicality of life, which is the Yesh, the fullness of existence. And then there's the Ayin, which is the emptiness, the spirituality, the formless. And our connection to the divine is through spiritual acts. But spirituality, Ayin, is not the creator, like the Maharal writes. Just like HaKadosh Baruch Hu created the physical world, manifests from the unmanifest, the manifestation of physical reality and the fullness of creation. The same thing also HaKadosh Baruch Hu created, the Creator created, the unmanifest world, the world of Ayin. Both Yesh and Ayin and Yesh are just paradigms reflecting the ultimate truth that holds both these two and through which both these two emerge, which is not Yesh and not Ayin. It's divine. Divine is not spirituality, and divine is not physicality. It's both physicality and spirituality, and they're both simultaneously true. The fullness of spirituality and the fullness of physicality. That's the connection between the Yesh and Ayin. So how do we be in this? How are we meant to be in this world? How are we supposed to connect to this world? Our intention is not to transcend the physical world, the Yeshus of the physical existence. It's not to expire from physical existence. It's not to expire from the ego. And the intention is not to get to a place where we expire from the wheel of reincarnations or Gilgulim, to expire from life, expire from this existence, this we'll call the drama of this existence, from the Yesh of this existence. But to be fully in the Yeshus of the existence, in the fullness of existence, simultaneously be fully in the Ayin of the emptiness and nothingness of the existence, and hold that paradox together at all times. To be fully engaged in this world, but not become part of it in a way that we sink into it. We see this again reflected in this week's parsha, in this week's Torah portion, where the Torah talks about the burial of Sarah. This is the first time someone is buried. What does it mean to bury a person that passed on? The Zohar also talks about it as going back to the four Kiras Abba, representing the four elements, going back to the four elements, which means that we're treating the body with respect, with honor. Because if the intention of creation is to transcend the body, to be Ayin, to be nothing, to expire from this world, so the moment the body is let go, the moment the soul leaves the body, then we just let it drop the body and let it just cremate or just discard the body. But the Torah says no, we have to treat the body with respect. We have to bury the body. On the other hand, we have to bury the body in the earth, that it returns back into the elements, but we're not allowed to worship the body. You're not allowed to be a Doyer Shalom Mason. You can't communicate with the dead. Sometimes that we had such revered characters, and the Torah speaks about like Moshe Rabbeinu, who's the greatest of all men. The Torah says that he's hidden. We don't know where his body is. For those above, it seems that he's below. For those in the state of Ayin, it seems that he's in the Yesh. For those on the top of the mountain, it looks like he's on the bottom of the mountain. And for those on the bottom of the mountain, fully in the place of the Yesh, he feels like he's Ayin. And literally, his body is hidden, because otherwise we would worship his body. So there's a certain reverence for the body, a certain respect for the body, without worship. Because this is the balance between the Yesh of existence and the Ayin of existence. That we could experience in terms of the way Avram was experienced. Could you experience grieving without breaking? Could you experience the pain of death? And you should, without becoming lost in it. And the same also with joy. Could you experience the joyfulness of this world, the fullness of this world? The Gesher Rechav Ma'od, the wideness of the world, without losing yourself. Don't lose yourself. The not losing the self is because we're connected to the Ayin. The indulgence or the participation, the recognition of the fullness of Hashem is specifically revealed within the beauty and the majesty and the gorgeousness and the taste and the colors and the fabrics of creation, is because we recognize that the Yesh too is a reflection of the ultimate I. The I that's expressed in the Ayin, the emptiness, and the I that's expressed in the Yesh, the fullness. And we have to be in that place of balance. Not tilted in either direction, but be that hold that paradox of that space. And that's what it means to live. That's what it means to participate in this world, to be engaged in this world, to care about the world, for a desire to make the world a better place. And that's what we care about, creating a better society, creating a better world, better families, because we believe in the world, we believe in the Yesh of existence. Our intention is not to expire from this world. And cultures that spoke about the Ayin on their level, spoke about the nothingness and emptiness, whether Stoicism or other forms. If that was the intention, to detach yourself from the full experience of this world, then why do anything? Why push to develop this world? Why think that there's any intention? Why treat the body with respect, certainly after it's passed on? Why get married? Why bury? And why be engaged in furthering this world for the better? In the level of the Ayin, but we have to be in this place of this constant balance, because in the place of the Yesh, for example, I'll give another example. Let's say in the place of the Yesh, where the fullness of existence, I'm fully present, so now I'm fully present to other people's energy, also to what people tell me. Part of Ishtavus, this is what Rabbi Yitzchak Libanako writes, Emiris and Ayin, one of the students of the Ramban, one of the ideas of Ishtavus is that we're unaffected by praise and unaffected by the opposite of praise. That whatever people tell you, you're unaffected by them. That's a good way of living. That's Ayin. When you recognize that when people are praising you and telling you whether for good or bad, or the opposite of praise, you're unaffected because you're in a state of Ishtavus. You're in a place of equanimity. The other person's definition of who I am and projection of who I am doesn't really affect who I am, how I feel about myself. I'm in a place of Ishtavus. And that's a good thing. That's a way to live in this world, that we're centered, we're focused, we know what we want to do in this world, and we're not affected by praise. And I'm specifically talking about the opposite of praise. We're not affected because the thing that I'm doing is true, and I know that to be the right thing. But is that always the right thing to do? Is it never good to be affected by praise or by criticism? What happens if it's coming from your spouse and it's coming from a healthy place? And sometimes maybe if it's coming from your student or someone that really loves you and they're praising you, and the reason why they're praising you is not because you're an amazing person. Maybe you are, but that's not the reason. Because the deflection that it's not about you is the Ishtavus part of it, is the equanimity part of it. But you also have to absorb it. Why? You open yourself up to absorb it because you recognize that the only way this person is connecting to you is through praising you. So it's not about you, it's about them. It's not that you're taking the praise seriously, but you're choosing to be in a relationship with this person, to be open to them. But sometimes, when you're in a deep relationship with someone, this is your spouse, you should be open to their praise and also open to the opposite. If they point something out about you that maybe needs correction, they could be your perfect mirror to tell you about who you are, to tell you that things maybe have to change, maybe you have to do things a little bit better. And these are particular midos, these are particular attributes that you should work on. So you can't say I'm just indifferent to everything. But the difference is, here, from the place of equanimity, from Ishtavus, from a place of equanimity where I'm not being affected, I'm choosing to enter into a relationship that I could be affected. And I am affected. It's not that I'm detached from this world, in a place of such Ishtavus that I don't care what other people say. And it's not that I'm so attached to what other people say that I can't think about for myself or how I think about myself, and I'm completely dangling on the opinions of others. But I'm choosing to enter fully into these relationships where I could be affected by other people, especially a person that loves me and in a good relationship with, because that's the way I can learn about myself. So that's a choice, and I'm entering into that place. And once I enter into the place, that choice, I'm there fully. That's the recognition of the Yesh. We're supposed to have relationships in this world. We're supposed to build families. We're supposed to have attachments. It's not about non-attachment, radical non-attachment. I'm not attached to anything. I'm just Ayin, and everything's just a perception of my mind, and everything's just an evaluation. Everything's just a certain conception, the way I think about things, and nothing's really real. Whether the world is not real, or the definition of good and evil is not real, and the definition of what other people say is not real, nothing is real. No, Yesh is real. And Yesh is also simultaneously not real. It's both Ayin and it's Yesh simultaneously. And I can move in and out of these two worlds very quickly. And the moment I feel myself too connected to the Yesh, I go back into the Ayin. The moment I feel connected so in the Ayin that I feel detached from this world, I feel this shava, but I'm not really participating fully and engaged fully in this experiences of life. And when I look at someone that's telling me something that's critical to myself in a loving way, and it's healthy for me to really learn to understand what they're saying, because I can grow from that, and I'm not listening because I'm so shalom, I'm so equal and so perfect in my own self. I'm so centered that I don't have to hear what other people say. Then you're already achsar, you're foreign to this world. So we have to learn how to create that balance, and the balance is because that's creation. Creation is in the place of the balance in the Yesh and the Ayin. And it's not only that I'm choosing to be in the Yesh, because that's a choice of my own mind from the place of Ishtavos, but that's the truth and the reality of existence is that the reality of existence exists. It's empirically true. You touch it, it exists, and that's the Yeshes, and that's the way we were created to experience that, the Yeshes, the fullness of existence, and therefore we should experience it fully. And this is the balance between these two things. And on even a deeper level, it's kulam shavim l'tova. That not only is it shavim, not only is it just equal, because there's no quality to things, only the way I choose to make it quality. And I create the definitions. I decide whether the thing is good to me or not. Because every single experience on one level, you could say that I'm experiencing life is just is. How am I experiencing that? That's already a definition. Someone, God forbid, passes on, and I feel really very painful. Let's say it's a grandparent, someone that you really connect to. That's a story. It's a true story, but it's a story that you tell yourself, I'm connected to this person. When you say, I'm not attached to this person, therefore you won't feel the pain. That's the level of Ishtavos. And we're saying that's not correct. But it's also correct, because if you're too attached and you're crying uncontrollably and you're grieving in a way that you're totally sinking into the grief, and you're so attached to the drama of life that you become part of the drama in itself, part of the story itself. You're not just experiencing the story, but you're part of the story in itself, and you can't extricate yourself from the story, then you're stuck. And that's the balance between these two powers, between these two forces. The reason why we can balance these two forces, the Yesh and the Ayin, the equanimity and the fullness, and to live life from the place of equanimity, from on top of the mountain, like Avram, to come down to mourn, to experience life, from the place of equanimity, of emptiness, of nothingness, of detachment, sort of detachment, of being in the mind, from that place to enter into the place of the fullness of life in an exaggerated way, the way that Avram experienced it in the death of his wife. And the idea of the Gemara says, it hadn't been a test, that death is most felt by a spouse. To enter into that place is because the world functions from these two paradigms, the Yesh paradigm, the Ayin paradigm, and they're both simultaneously true, and it's being held by Atzmos, by a force that's beyond Yesh and beyond Ayin. And in the place of Atzmos, and this is what the Chazal say, the sages say, it's kulam shavim l'tova. That it's not just shavim, it's not just shivisi, it's all the same. Because in all the same, doesn't matter you're eating good, food that tastes well or doesn't taste well. It doesn't matter if a person is praising or the opposite of praise, right? Whether you're using the image, the example of Rabbi Yitzchak Dimako, or using the example of the Baal Shem Tov, whether it's food or in praise. But we're saying, but the place of the Yesh, the fullness of existence, these things actually do matter, and that's where it's expressed fully. The divine is expressed in the fullness of creation, in the beauty and the taste. And if something tastes beautiful, and it tastes delicious, this is because delicious is the tam of something. Like so, they can write that the tam is really the ruchnius. The taste of something is really the spirituality. The Dvar Hashem, that's machaya, this word, the divine animating force. Not on the food itself, but the Dvar Hashem, the word of Hashem is reflected in the taste of things. So we're experiencing the fullness within the taste. And that balance between when it doesn't matter what it tastes, but it matters completely how it tastes. is reflected in every single thing in your life. You're eating a good meal and you're enjoying the meal and you made a bracha and you're enjoying and you're relishing and you're connected to Hashem and you're feeling the taste of the divinity within all the food and the fullness of this experience and the taste and the texture and the colors and everything is alive and you're feeling the liveness and the fullness and everything. And then all of a sudden your child comes along and pulls it away from you, or you drop it. And that's okay. It's Shava. It's all good. It doesn't matter. I was so attached to it. I was so connected to it, and I could let go of it immediately. That's because I have both the Ayin and the Yesh simultaneously. And this becomes because we're connected to Atzmos. And in the world of Atzmos, in the essence of the Creator, it's Tov. It is ultimately Tov. It is ultimately good. It's not only Shava, it's not only equal, but it's actually good because Teva Tov Leitet, because the nature of good is to give good. And the Midah of HaKadosh Baruch Hu Kaviyachal, just like the Rambam writes, that that Hashem Kaviyachal, we only have negative theology. We can't say what Hashem is, only Hashem is not. When you say Hashem is strong or powerful, it means that Hashem is not weak. That's the Rambam's definition. But when he speaks about intelligence, he says Hashem is the source of intelligence. What that means and how does we understand this? But that's the Rambam writing. And like the Alter Rebbe writes, that this truth, what the Rambam writes about the intelligence, is also true about the midas of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. That Hashem, I guess in Shayei, that Hashem and his attributes is one, which means this is Torah Chassidus, teaching of Chassidus. It's not intelligence, it's not moichin, it's chayas. It's not about intelligence, it's about life. And the fullness of the Creator, the goodness of the Creator, is a definition. Of course, we can't define it, but that's the way we're going to define it. And how do we know that the goodness of the Creator, how do we know the definition of the Creator is goodness? Kaviyachal, as if, because he created. And created a beautiful world. And the more we can recognize the beauty, we can recognize that not only it's shavim, not only it's equal, but it's actually toiv, it's also good. Hashem shall help that we should continue living our lives in a way that's perfectly balanced between kulam shavim and baba yamim. Everything's equal. And everything's perfect just the way it is, without a definition, without evaluation. And I enter fully every single moment completely. Then I recognize from these two, holding this paradox together, that everything is actually good and everything comes from the source of